what I was looking through was on NFL.com, the top 10 offenses for 2025. And so, like, they have on there the top 10 teams from the 2024 regular season based on points per game, blah, 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 blah. So who is it going to be this year? Who's going to be the top 10? And they have Kansas City at number 10, by the way. Which, okay. And well, they were carried by their defense a lot last year. Kansas City 10, Cincinnati 9, Green Bay 8, Philadelphia 7, Denver 6, Detroit 5, Washington 4, Baltimore 3, Tampa 2, Buffalo 1. Top 10 offenses in football for 2025. And what I want to ask the people and y'all.
The peoples.
Are we doing some hating on the Cowboys and why? Because I wanted to go look. I was like, when Dak Prescott plays football, when was the last time they weren't like a top 10 offense? And the answer is they never. So the last 4 of the last 6 years, Dak's been healthy. Andy Dalton year and Cooper Rush year, yeah, they weren't a top 10 offense. NFL ranking in yards for the Cowboys the last 4 healthy Dak seasons. 1, 11, 5. 3 top 5s and 1 was 11th in yards. In points with healthy Dak, 6th, 1st, 4th, 1st. What are we doing? Pretending that the Cowboys aren't going to have a good offense.
I think there's a little concern.
About what?
About your quarterback.
Health?
Health. There is some concern about your quarterback's health. There's still some concern about your quarterback's offensive line.
For sure. A little bit of that. Left tackle.
A little
bit of right tackle.
And you have the addition of George Pickens. You don't know what your running game is going to be. That's still up for grabs. So you think that having the addition of George Pickens and then having CeeDee Lamb, that will account for something. But I think people are because you said 4 out of the last 6 years, 2 of those years, Dak wasn't healthy.
Correct.
And I think people, and I'm not saying me, I'm not saying us, I'm not saying our show.
What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people? I think people are getting to the point where they may begin to question the quality of health that Dak Prescott will give you through the duration of the season. And that might be something. What am I missing?
No, you were doing great, and it was right when you were finishing a sentence I started laughing because I looked at the chat, and I was like, damn it, Jesse's going to be like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, like now you got to talk about
Jeremy said maybe it's the way the light's hitting the elbow.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks flammable.
I've been looking at my elbow. It's not ashy, man. It's the light.
And I'm like, yeah, Jesse, that's a good point. I glanced at the chat. You were,
So
I could hear you were
doing
finishing
this.
your sentence. I'm like, oh, Jesse's going to be mad because I'm
Man,
laughing.
every time I'm putting these heaters out, Ain't
nothing wrong with the elbow, man. It's on the table.
The heater. Look,
It's on the table, man. Ain't nothing wrong with the elbow, man. Stop it.
Clarence, are they hating on the Cowboys offense?
They are, and they're hating on my elbows. Yes, yeah. I think so. I like how you phrased it. Yeah,
he was listening. See,
yeah, because he opened up.
He was listening. He said, "I like how you phrased it."
Because you opened up, you did a little capital. You was hating on the quarterback. Well, he can't stay healthy. Yeah, they questioned the quarterback.
Well, he said they, not him.
Well, I mean,
I said they, not me.
But you didn't
not
jump
us.
off this table.
But you legitimized it by bringing it up first.
Oh yeah, I'm out.
Yeah,
I've already jumped off. I've already jumped off. I mean, last year, but last year he said,
"Jump off if you
want to."
Jump off
if you want to.
Yeah, he was just talking about.
And I jumped off.
He was trying to say right.
So
he was
did his
trying to
hamstring.
be tough. Stop it. Listen,
hamstring jumped right off the bone.
Right off the bone. He was like, hell, I'm going with Jesse. See ya.
Listen, I swear to God, everywhere I go, I get in arguments about the quarterback.
We're aware,
wow.
But it ain't just the quarterback.
But it's mainly about the quarterback. I'm talking about. There are a lot of Cowboys, like Atlanta. There are a lot of diehard Cowboy fans. Love the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Hate the quarterback.
Yeah.
I was at an event last week in Fort Worth. Love the Cowboys. Hate the quarterback. I was at Spud's house. A police officer just retired. Love the Cowboys. Hate the quarterback.
Yeah.
It just drives me crazy. There's so many Cowboy fans eat their own. They hate their own quarterback. I mean, it's like, yeah, I love the Cowboys, but he's a loser and he never plays well. The dude was just runner-up MVP.
He was, and he pressured away.
And people just like, that's like no big deal. He never wins big games.
That
what?
was 2 seasons ago, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Well, he was hurt last year.
Yeah, he's
You
hurt.
know, he never.
24 months.
He was also healthy last year to the tune of like 2-4.
He never comes through in the clutch.
Well,
And you can
that's
say
a
what you want about Pittsburgh, but that drive against Pittsburgh was amazing. You know, but that wasn't a good team. You know, that don't count.
I only
it's
care
like,
about Green Bay and San Fran.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me that
I don't
people
care that he retired Tom Brady. I don't care about none.
But to your point, when Dak is healthy, they are a top 10 offense. When Dak is healthy, they're a playoff team. They're a playoff contender. So obviously, since everybody wants to project about Rebel and everybody else coming out and being there, we're in the offseason, if Dak is healthy, how can you say this is not a playoff team? How can you say this is not going to be? Because the history has shown us that if Dak is healthy and plays, they're going to be a contender. And now you add in Pickens, which they haven't had in a couple of years, to this offense. There's no question that this offense is going to be explosive as it was a couple of years ago. And just watching
There's
that,
no question.
I don't think there's any question about that.
None.
I mean, clearly,
Stop.
if they're no.
No, he's trying to advocate me.
Clearly, if they're not on the field, then yes, you have a question.
Right.
But if they're on the field, then we can only assume because I know you're saying his health is showing that he's not going to be on the field. But
No, I'm not
there are
saying-
people that believe that even if he's on the field, he's a bad quarterback.
No,
that's not true.
I don't believe that.
So if he's on the field, and there are people that will contend, it's not about the injury for them. It's about that he's like what is Shady call him ass? Okay, he's this, he's that. That's not true. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but he's a top 10 quarterback. He's a top 10. He's a legitimate top 10 quarterback. And when he's on the field and playing, which is what we all are talking about, they're going to be a good offense. They're going to be a team that contends. My issue with the Cowboys is I don't know if they can stop the run.
Yeah, I think they have multiple big questions. Because you're not wrong. You're not wrong that when Dak plays, they generally make the playoffs and have a top 10 offense. Both of those things are true. Both those things, Daddy. But I also do think that this roster is definitely going to be better than it was a year ago. But
Offensively or overall?
Overall.
Okay.
I think it'll be that's hard because so many of the guys were hurt that are gone that I might be factoring that in. But I don't think it's a better roster than we're used to. Like, they had at least an off season where they did add one potentially impact player and some other guys that can help. Whereas last year they didn't do any of that. So I think this roster is better than a year ago.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as good as 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, the receivers are better than they were 2.
Sure,
3
George Pickens
years.
helps a lot.
Yeah, because
But-
even during Dak's MVP candidate season, the receivers were still bad outside of CD.
Yeah.
CD had an historic season. Yes, they were bad.
What year was that? 2022?
3
Okay.
and 2022.
Well, 2022 they had
Was Amari still here?
They had 2,000-yard receivers, a 1,000-yard running back, and
Don't do that.
900-yard
don't,
tight end?
Don't do that.
I have questions
Don't do
about
that.
running back.
When you rush for 1,004 yards, it don't count.
Well, that's 1,000.
I know, but over 17
And 4.
games, well, come on,
That's how you
over
say the
17
word.
games, it don't
no,
count.
I'm just saying that.
I mean, but,
like,
but those are great
they-
stats, but it don't mean you got a good running game.
I was talking about the passing game. I threw that in there.
Well,
But that year they had almost they had 2 guys over 1,000, and a third guy that was close to 1,000.
I know, but people keep bringing up that we had a 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard running back, defense end with 10 sacks. I mean, it's like, come on, guys.